What do people think about successful researchers when they're considering which journal to target with their research? They think about several things. They tend to think about impact factor. Of course, how many people are reading and citing a particular journal? Impact factor, we're all aware of it. We all love it or hate it. But basically, this is a metric that measures the number of readers a particular journal has. So a journal with a higher impact factor, Nature, Science, for example, they've got more readers than the journal of, Belarusian lake biology or something like that. So we are thinking as academics, which journal to submit to, what's the impact factor going to be? That's one key consideration, as well as reputation, reach within the field, and whether the journal is open access or not. So successful academics publishing their work in leading international journals, they consider impact factor. Does the journal have an impact factor? And what does this mean? You should be looking for journals that are peer reviewed. That's the basic criteria, the basic benchmark for a reputable academic journal. Don't send your work to a journal that doesn't have peer review. It will not be listed. It will not be reputable. So all Bentham science publishing journals, they are using peer review. Of course, these journals are listed. They have reputable editorial boards. You can go in and you can look at who is on those editorial boards. You can write to the editors. You can make your pre-submission inquiries. Impact factor then. Reputation as well, which of course, as we've discussed, is related to impact factor, and reach within the field. And by that, I mean that some journals have more reputation, more reach within your particular field than others. It's possible, of course. It's the case in my field, for example, that some journals with big reputations that are read by lots of academics in my field may not necessarily have such high impact factors. So that's another consideration when selecting a journal. And fourthly, and often just as importantly, authors think about accessibility. Is the journal open access? Can anybody anywhere around the world go in and download my article? So considerations include impact factor, reputation, reach within the field, and open accessibility. And so we would recommend that your effective journal selection is a marriage between research and publication. And so aiming high, going preferentially for journals with higher impact factors is a good idea. And you can also choose appropriately by talking to editors, by targeting your submissions to journals that will likely be interested in that work. You can't publish everything, of course, in Nature and Science. And thirdly, then, learning to sell and manage that submission, which is something that we can teach you. It's a skill you can learn. You are a talented researcher, of course. You wouldn't be in the position that you're in if you didn't have research talent. But the key now is turning that talent into skill to get your papers into those best journals possible. So rule number 1, aim high. Rule number 2, choose appropriately. Rule number 3, learning to sell and manage your submissions. So authors want speed. They want their papers to come out as fast as possible. They want high reach and readership, and they want decent impact factors. Speed, reach, and impact factor. These are the key considerations when targeting a journal. And we'll also talk about open access, how this has changed in light of the current COVID-19 paradigm in terms of understanding open access. Of course, open access journals, open access publishing ensures that all your work, your data, your results, your conclusions, and sometimes also peer review are open for everybody to access. Bentham Science Publishers, leading publisher of open access journals and ebooks under a gold open access model. So this slide summarizes the key differences between gold open access and green open access. Gold, of course, is where you're publishing in a journal that's fully open access. You're paying a single article processing charge for access to allow your paper to be open to all. Green, on the other hand, transformative open access, where you might be publishing in a more traditional journal, one that sells subscriptions to libraries, to hospitals, to institutions, but you are then providing a fee to that journal just to make your paper open to all. That's the key difference. Often then it comes down to money, and what's the charge, what's the cost, what's the impact on the author for making their paper open access at the end of the day. So what are our recommendations? We recommend to expedite the publication process, you communicate with editors before you start to write. I've emphasized this already. Get in there, send those pre-submission inquiries, communicate with editors before you start to write, talk to a number of different journals over email, send off those templates, those pre-submission inquiry email templates, which of course we can help you with. If you get in touch with us, we can give you templates to help you do this effectively, and see what information you get back from the editor. Maybe the editor will say, great, sounds good, we'd love to see that paper, in which case you're already ahead of the game in the submission process. Maybe the editor comes back and says, would be more appropriate for another journal in our family, in which case you're also able to get yourself moving with that publication process. So write to editors, write to as many as you like. You're committing yourself to nothing. You're committing yourself to nothing when you make that initial submission. Select a target journal effectively, and you can always reach out with your abstract and with your title so that you can do this effectively. And we will provide you with an email template to do this after the webinar. So expediting the submission process, there are 3 things that you need to know before you start to write: your message, your audience, and your structure. Effective peer review and dealing with international colleagues. And I would also say that target journal selection can also involve the use of preprint servers. What's a preprint server? Well, this is just an online repository where pre-review or post-review documents are submitted, reposited, so that other people in your research community can access that content. Here's a number of examples, but the key point here is that journals access preprint servers. They come and look at preprint servers, they look at the content already available on preprint servers, and they select articles for potential publication in their journal. So preprints can also be a good idea for authors. Have a look at some in your area. Consider putting your work onto a preprint server when you finish the study, when you've written the article, because then journals will come to you. And don't worry about copyright, don't worry about priority, because that's all covered on preprint servers by the use of so-called Creative Commons licenses. You own the copyright, nobody can reuse your content without citing you. It's the future of academic publishing. So we are talking then about effective writing and submission, maximizing your scholarly impact for a rewarding publishing experience. And in terms of journal selection, then I would encourage you to think about your research impact as being academic, and what economic and societal benefit is your research having. We have talked about insights into publication, insights on global research trends, effective journal selection, and how you as an author can expedite that process. My name is Gareth Dyke. This is a presentation brought to you by Diffusion Editing and Bentham Science Publishers. Thank you once again for listening. Thank you for your time.